Marco Reus. Daniel Malen! Wonderful!
Fantastic from Reus. Jude Bellingham, that's excellent. Jude Bellingham, this is absolutely brilliant. Jude Bellingham! Absolutely magnificent.
Reina, brilliant from the American. Just like that.
Graceful. Sally Hoods turn for Anthony Modeste.
Can't find a bit of space for himself. Brandt, and what a chance! It's finished by Moukoko! This game turned on its head. Youssoufa Moukoko!
And unfortunately, that did not happen today. As we're recording this just after Manchester City and Dortmund in the Champions League game today. But hi, my name's Jake. Carver is with me as always. How are you doing, man?
Shitty.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not doing well. We took 2 fat L's in a row, so.
And this is the
not happy.
This is the BVB podcast, by the way. I forgot to say that because I got carried away with the.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. But I mean, we talked about it last week when I did the episode because I did the new intro and everything, and it's good that I did because if you remember the goal from that old Haaland, like he's never been away, was basically the same goal that he scored today. So, but taking that out of the intro did not help us at all. So it's been a rough few days, week. Not a good go for Dortmund. Yeah, I don't know. So we got the Leipzig game to preview, which was horrendous. We're gonna preview Man City, and then we'll get you ready or recap those 2 games, and then get you ready with a preview for Schalke this weekend. So let's get into it. Let's start with Leipzig.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't want to talk about this game at all, but we got to.
I do. I want to talk about this because people need to be held accountable for the absolute shit show that was Saturday. And, we've seen this kind of performance from Dortmund easily over a dozen times in the last 2 years, maybe. An early setback, heads drop. No one is able to complete a simple pass for the remaining 90 minutes. What little game plan we had is out the window. And now we just hold on for dear life for 80 plus minutes and just hope to not get humiliated, I guess. And oh my God, it was horrendous. Nothing positive pretty much at all for this entire game, except for, I guess, Bayern drop points. But I mean, what do you think in the first opening minutes?
We'll start with the lineup, which was it picked itself. I mean, look at our bench was just like who's there? I mean, we had Reina on the bench. And that was about it. But starting lineup, we had Guerrero left back, Schlotterbeck and Sule in the middle, Meunier right back, Meyer in goal. 2 weeks in a row, I'm forgetting to mention Meyer. Oschan, Bellingham in the middle. Then we had Brandt, Royce, and Wolf, and Modeste up top again. And yeah, again, I think the story here is like the bench. Like, who do we have to go to? Because Adeyemi, Mullins out. We had Moukoko and Reina was like our depth in the attack, and that was basically it.
I just want to say, everyone that you mentioned already that started in the 11, not a single player except for maybe Bellingham looked up for the challenge that day.
No,
I mean, for a club as talented as Leipzig are, and our ex-coach literally appointed to that team within just days before the game and wanting revenge, you would think Dortmund would come out hungry, wanting a result, going and taking the game to them, but absolutely lifeless, every one of them. It was embarrassing.
Did you have any thoughts? I know we talked about it a little bit in the preview, but going into this game, I mean, I was definitely feeling a lot more confident. I know I just didn't expect you always see the new manager bounce, but I thought this was like too close of a call, like appointed way too, like you said, 2 days out. I just didn't think that he was going to really have enough time to turn things around. I mean, he changed up their formation a little bit, made a couple changes in the lineup, and I mean, it worked. And it looked like he had a game plan, and he just drilled it in. I mean, I know like Red Bull has their system and how they do things, so it's kind of like plug and play, like with as far as the Red Bull system and him as the coach coming from that system. So maybe that helped a little bit more. I just didn't know, like going into this game, how'd you feel confidence-wise, especially with the Rosa appointment?
Yeah. So, I mean, you have the new coach buff, I guess, and Rosa knows, I guess, some areas to exploit from Dortmund, but you also have to think that Terzic and just the squad had no game plan whatsoever. So it's a little bit of Rosa, but it's also just nothing coming from the end of Dortmund. I mean, our shape and just positioning throughout this entire match was just shocking. And we made Timo Werner actually look like a decent footballer the entire 90 minutes, which is impressive to do. And I mean, just how Leipzig are going to play. I mean, of course, they're going to be on the counter, and players like Werner is going to rely on his pace and space to run into. And it's just, again, it's impressive how well Dortmund played into their strengths of Leipzig in general, but just into the hands, into the palms of Timo Werner. I mean, you couldn't contain him all game, even though we know he's not an intelligent player. He was still offsides a handful of times this game. And yet we are just giving him and everyone else acres of space to run into and do whatever the hell they wanted and not put any sort of pressure on the ball. We didn't look like we had any sort of desire. And I mean, again, from early on, we can see the heads drop. Yeah. I mean, I guess the opening seconds, we looked okay.
That's what I was going to say. Like, the first 5 minutes looked good until that goal. Like we were putting on high pressure and like we were controlling the ball a little bit. Granted, that's literally the first 5 minutes, so you can't take anything from that. But the switch was the goal. And one thing I noticed very early on is like Leipzig they did not look up for it in that first 5 minutes. Like it looked like their confidence was already down. They were playing like the Leipzig we've seen over the last like couple weeks and everything. Like I thought, wow, this is going to be a cakewalk because we were controlling it. We didn't create any real chances, but like we were creating the opportunities to almost have chances, just like that final ball. But like the first 5 minutes looked great, and they looked down until that corner, and that went in, and it completely flipped the game. And they're like, oh, like they kicked on, and then we couldn't string anything together. I don't think we had a shot first half.
We didn't have a shot on target the entire game for the first time in 3 years in the Bundesliga. Dortmund did not have a single shot on target. It's truly remarkable. Again, just playing into their palms and of their hands, and I defensively and offensively. I mean, on both sides of the ball, we were absolutely clueless, and we were so disconnected in every sense of, or just every area of the pitch. I mean, again, could not complete a single simple 5-yard pass, 10-yard pass. And the second we would get any sort of decent opportunity to maybe start to go forward when we're in the middle third, we would give it up, and then you'd look behind whoever lost the ball, and there would be absolutely no one. And we wouldn't have any sort of cover. So Leipzig would immediately play into that space and just look out wide or look for Werner and Nkunku up top to exploit with that pace, and just kept ripping us apart. And by the end of the game, they were just toying with us. But I still want to go through, the rest of the half, and of course the second half too.
Yeah, and I mean, you would think, and I obviously injuries, but I mean, how we can't just like say injuries. We can't blame this on injuries. This was lack of idea, lack of game plan, lack of like anything. But you would think on the injury note, and us seeing Brandt and Wolf start, you would almost expect this from like if we had newer, younger guys starting, but they've been in the system a bit and playing with Royce in the middle. You think they would know what to do enough just from the fact that they've been in the system a while, like that they would be able to put something together, and they couldn't do anything.
You would think that. I kind of get the idea of playing both Meunier and Wolf on the right-hand side, of course, because they can interchange with each other and, cover for one another. One's going to play up and whipping across with Meunier's, he's clearly the most successful crosser on the team, and Wolf can stay back and provide that cover, and then obviously vice versa. But I mean, not just the right side, any side of the of our attack was just completely clueless and not idealistic in the slightest. And then defensively too, I want to go back. It wasn't just about covering like just Werner either. Of course, we made him look way better than the player he is. But everyone, I mean, we couldn't mark anyone, even on the corner to concede the first goal. Schlotterbeck could have done better. And we just did not care to mark up in any time, set pieces or an open play.
Yeah. It seemed like my notes was just like, it was more about them. It was more about them on the counter. Them, like, they keep creating chances off the counter, and we just couldn't create anything. Like, what? Anytime it seemed like we weren't looking for like the simple pass, but then even when we went for the simple pass, we couldn't make that work. But like too many times we tried these like cute little flick-ons, and we tried to do something a little too fancy or like take on a player, and it just didn't work. Like, I don't know. It just looked like we've never played football before, like never together. Like, I can't understand when
couldn't get any combinations going either. So there was no individual reliance on individual brilliance, or there was no reliance on any sort of like game plan as a team going forward either. It was just the classic, we tried nothing and we're out of ideas.
Where do you think, this game, like, it seemed like we needed that someone to step up, someone to like individually do something great. Like, are we too reliant on that? I know we talked about this maybe last season a lot. Like, are we too reliant on maybe waiting for one person to step up? Because it just doesn't look like we're playing as a team. And it's not just this game. Like, we've seen some good things here and there, but I think maybe like read between the lines a little bit, like it looks, or read between the phases of other games. It's like, we've seen this where it's like we just can't really string anything together. Like, we have some okay moments, but we really haven't been playing as a team. No.
And so you're going into the second half and you're only down 2-0. Of course, it's not ideal, and it's a bit of a mountain to climb coming out the second half, but it's still possible to get a result out of this. And you need a reaction from not only every player on the field, but Terzic as well. This is where the coach, earns his paycheck. And, that squad comes in the middle of halftime, and Terzic should be telling the team, to get compact, put Werner in positions where he doesn't have space to run into, and you can mark him better and play him off sides, support each other on offense and defense, so we can actually go and create chances to score and prevent being caught on the counter. Because again, couldn't get anything going forward. And then when we would have another 5 or 10 turnovers in a row, you would look behind you and just acres of space for Leipzig to run into and exploit with pace. And there's just no reaction from Terzic. I'm not saying you necessarily need a substitution at halftime. I mean, maybe if we had more depth on the bench and, had more available personnel, then yeah, you could look into bringing on like an Adeyemi or something like that. But
well, he wasn't available.
Well, that's what I'm saying, but you don't have that option. So I don't think a substitution was absolutely necessary. It's just a matter of galvanizing the team and saying, hey, like these are the areas that we obviously, well, first of all, wake the fuck up. And then, you get that game plan again of going together of, being more compact, staying more compact, and marking the opposition better. And just, my God, look like you want to be there. And this is a point where I point out, like, at an individual like Guerrero, and I assume a lot of people have seen the clip of him having like zero effort to track back. Was it 20 minutes in or something like that? And he's just looking like he's fed up already when we're like a fourth into the game, or Brandt losing the ball for no reason. No, but this was like the squad as a whole. Everyone besides maybe Bellingham deserved an earful during halftime, and there needed to be a reaction from everyone, including Terzic, and that didn't happen. Just came out looking just as arrogant and lifeless in the second half.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, okay, so, I mean, you mentioned Rafa and Brandt there specifically, and they were great in the last game, the Copenhagen game before this. So they were great, and I don't know why. And I just think this is a game you have to be up for. You're playing your old coach. It's Leipzig, who we should be up for this.
Especially a player like Brandt, because Rosa didn't fancy him half the time.
Yeah, this is your chance to keep your spot in the team. Like, you just had a good game. You have to keep it going. Like, I don't know why, and him and Rafa too, like, I don't know why, the whole team really, I don't know why you're not up for this game. It was just, you said it multiple times. It's horrendous.
And I'm waiting. I was thinking in my head. So when they come out, I obviously didn't hear what was said at halftime, but that's what I would probably say to them. And, you don't necessarily need a goal right out the gates. Of course, that would be ideal, but I'm just trying to be realistic. Just come out and actually start to look threatening within 10, 15 minutes. If you get one back, you still have 30 minutes to grab one more. Try to get a result out of this, whether if you want to keep it as a tie, depending on how we're performing, or maybe go for the win. But you still have an opportunity to get a result out of this. and just 20, like those first 25, 30 minutes zip by, and not the sense that I was having fun watching, but like the complete opposite, where I was like, my God, we have not tried anything. And the game is slipping away from us minute by minute, and we just do not care. Everyone in that field just does not give a shit. And I tweeted already, but it was the first Dortmund game that I've turned off in a long time. I mean, I'm not a supporter that usually does that ever, really, regardless of the result. But it was right before we conceded the third. We were going into the 80th, and it was another turnover from the right side. I forgot who it was, and I was like, I think that's it for me. I think I'm done.
We'll go back a little bit. I did finish the game, but it was not enjoyable, and I wanted to turn it off, but I was like, I'm going to power through. But it was not a fun watch by any means. We did see, so obviously second half started, and we still started slow. Again, like you said, it's okay.
We were slow the entire second half, not just starting slow either. We never got running or up and running the entire 90 minutes, not once.
Per the sub situation, it makes sense. Maybe give them a little bit, give them a chance. If you just ripped into them, see if they're going to step it up. And we did see subs in like the 60th minute. 60th minute, Gio and Mokoko came on. Brandt and Wolf went off. And there was a chance where Reina crossed it to Modeste. Didn't really that was maybe our first shot on goal. But
we did not have a shot
not on goal, but just a shot. Maybe our first shot of the game, I think, came in like the 63rd minute with the cross from Reina. But after that, and that was like, okay, cool. Maybe we're gonna start creating something. Maybe Reina will do something. And that was pretty much it. Nothing after that.
Mm-hmm. It was our worst performance this season, easily, and arguably for a while so, even before the season started as well. I mean, going back to the last few months of last season too. And I mean, there's enough blame to go around, of course. I mean, we've had some people post or comment on the last clip we had of Brandt saying like, he was piss poor, and of course he was, but it's not like the team as a whole played well and it was just Brandt that was underperforming. The entire team underperformed, except for, again, maybe Bellingham. I mean, Sule had some decent moments, but you look around, you can just go down the list and you're like bad, poor, horrendous, awful, careless, clueless. And that comes down to Terzic too. I mean, he's made some bad decisions this season so far. And I still believe in the guy and everything, but he needs to start making smarter decisions and not just the substitutions. And not just the tactics you start with before the game, but also just how are you going to react to things whenever things are going, of course, awry. And how are you going to try to cover these types of spaces whenever Leipzig are getting on the counter? Because he clearly didn't, I guess, learn after the first half. He came out thinking like, well, that can't happen again. Mm-hmm. Shocking.
Yeah, I want to get your thoughts on Royce so far this season. I don't have his stats pulled up. I did not do any stat prep because I watched the Man City Dortmund game on delay and pretty much jumped right on here to record. So I don't have any stats or anything pulled up, but I think in that game specifically where we really need someone to just like take control of this game and do something. And I feel like Royce has gone missing a little bit. Like I know he's created some opportunities here and there, but it's like, I want him to, as the captain, and I mean, he's just been around forever, and I think this game needed him, but not just this game. I think other games too, and specifically working with Modeste. Like, I guess two questions. One, how do we work better with Modeste? Like, is this what is Terzic saying? Is like, why aren't we creating stuff for him more? And like, why isn't that connecting? And also, why isn't Royce taking more control and being this like creative director through the pitch?
All right, well, that's a lot, but people have always had valid criticisms of Royce as a captain. I mean, of course, he's been here 10 years. Of course, he's had a good amount of success, I'll say, at the club. Of course, he's had some really heartbreaking moments, but he still had a lot of terrific moments as well, countless terrific moments in the last decade. And he's a vocal person on the pitch. And of course, he knows about the history of this club and everything. And he has a lot of great connections with everyone off the pitch as well. But when it comes down to like true leadership and, keeping your team organized, keeping your team focused and everything like that, I'm not saying he's bad, but I don't think that's really his strengths. and we just put the captain's armband around him, because if you look at anyone else in the squad besides Jude, you're kind of like, there's not really many great options that people want to look to and be like, that's the captain of Borussia Dortmund.
Mm-hmm. I don't have anything wrong with him being the captain, and I don't even think I'm not saying, oh, I wish he was out there running around and yelling at everyone more. I'm looking at purely as a creative role. I feel like he hasn't quite been doing quite enough. But also at the same time, like the team hasn't really, like we're still we're just not firing. Like we just can't create anything in that final third, and that's why I want him to be the guy to do it.
Which I feel like he's very much adjusted all of his game in the last 5 years or so. Because I mean, he heavily relied on pace himself when he was younger. He was one of the most lightning quick players in Europe, really. But just with time and time again with injuries, he's become more of a creative player who's going to set up his teammates. He's going to get a little bit more central and make those runs. And he still makes this, similar runs to what he did whenever he was younger. But I think he's just a little bit more team oriented. And it's just hard to get going when everyone else around you is not going either. I mean, Modeste is not the easiest player to play off of your voice. I mean, a few years back when he had players like Sancho to constantly do the 1-2s with, and Guerrero would be up there. And I mean, Haaland was a player that was brilliant to play off of as well. So I mean, I think it's not really just him. Of course, every attacker has struggled this season so far. I mean, of course, Adeyemi hasn't had a lot of minutes, but he hasn't been banging in a lot of goals either. I mean, really, you can go down the list.
Yeah.
Modeste hasn't really lived up. Mukoko's not getting a lot of time on the pitch either.
I'm just trying to think ahead, and I don't know where it's going to change. I don't know if because obviously Adeyemi and Malen have been out. Malen's a mystery to me because last season didn't get a lot of playing time. So I don't know him slotting in, if that's going to change much and change our work through with Modeste. I like Adeyemi, and his speed can create a lot of problems for people. Again, we just haven't seen enough, and I still don't know how. Obviously, we have this big target up top, Modeste, and I think the big question is, how do we get him involved? How do we get him? What do we need to change tactically? And I'm not asking you specifically. I'm just thinking through my head. What do we need to change tactically to start creating more, and especially through him? Because we're kind of stalling at the time being, and I don't know how we're going to fix this.
We are stalling, and I think you saw glimpses of us starting to have an idea of how to get him more involved in this team and involved in our attack. But like I was saying just last week, I mean, we had a stretch of 9 incredibly important games all in a row, and it's tough, I guess, to have any sort of freedom and try new things in those games whenever you're facing such tough opponents in such tough situations too. So you got to keep working on and training too. And if that means you putting more focus into the attack, because I think we're a little bit more defensively sound, which I was going to touch more on that in the City game that we saw today. But our attack is struggling, which is a rarity to say when it comes to a team like Dortmund.
Yeah. Positive, Rain has been looking good, so I don't mind him slotting in. I feel like I have a lot more faith in him than Adeyemi and Malen, just because they're more of a mystery, and we don't really know how that's going to shape our attack necessarily. Hopefully we'll start to see that in the next few games as they come in. They were both on the bench against City. We did see Malen come in, not Adeyemi. But, I mean, do you have anything else about do you need to rant and vent a little more about this game before we move on?
I already pretty much got everything I was saying of just earlier. It was easily our worst performance of the season, if not more than that. And again, a lot of things that went wrong fall on Terzic, and this team needs to wake up. Again, incredibly hard games coming up, thick and fast, and we need to get our shit together. And right after that game, I was immediately thinking, God, Man City, with them not having a game this past weekend, they were licking their lips looking at us.
Yeah,
and I was pretty darn spooked going into today's game. I mean, at the Etihad, for being such a dog shit atmosphere there as it is. I mean, it's still not fun to play there by any means, and you can get humiliated pretty quick by a team like City.
Yeah, before we jump into City, though, I did want to talk just like Bundesliga real quick because, I mean, it's been looking like a fun league. Now that like the fact that Bayern's not already running away with it, and I want to talk about them a little bit because they drew, I think, 3 games in a row, which had them lower on the table. I don't remember where they're at. Again, I have nothing pulled up. We're just going.
They're in 3rd right now.
3rd, okay.
But the rest of the top 4, I mean, of course, you have Union Berlin that are in 1st, which is, I remember predicting them, putting them in my top 4 to finish the season, but I did not think they'd actually be top of the table right now, which is pretty crazy. And then you have Freiburg in 2nd, Munich in 3rd, and then Hoffenheim in 4th. Notice how Dortmund are not in that top 4.
Yeah. But the frustrating thing is, well, this game aside, the last few games, they haven't been great, but we've been grinding out wins, which has been a positive. And I've been looking at that like, great, because we looked more defensively sound. We can like grind through a game. Like we get minimal chances, but we're getting the win. We're pulling out the win. Fantastic. And now this opportunity is open for us to go top of the table and really push, start to build that slight gap on Bayern, because it seems like teams are trying to figure out how to play them, or taking a chance to play a little more defensively against them, and it's working. And now, I mean, they just haven't really been able to click. Like, I watched their Champions League game against Barcelona, which was one of the best first halves of football I've ever seen. It was fantastic. But they're playing that attacking style against each other. But when teams are kind of just sitting back on them, they've been struggling. And we've seen them get draws. Even who'd they play over the weekend?
I played Stuttgart.
And they went up twice, and Stuttgart came back twice to get the draw. But it's like there was an opportunity open for us to push past, and we just like crumpled. And it's
you must be new here, Jake.
No,
this is fairly exactly who Dortmund are.
I know, I'm fairly new, but it sucks because these last few games, although they weren't great, it looked positive. And you throw in the chance that we had this chance to spread that gap a little bit, and then like in a big game where we really needed to prove ourselves, we just fell in a black hole.
Yeah, again, I think the only positive is Bayern dropping points. There are no positives on our end.
Oh no, but it ruins all the slight positivity that I had, and now I'm just like, we're the worst team ever.
We have a lot more football to play, and people are slowly starting to come back. Which again, going into Man City, you have Adeyemi and Malen being in the squad for this one. So, I mean, you got that going for us. I only got to see the first 50 minutes of this game, so I only saw the highlights of the last 40 or so afterwards or after the fact. And there are some positives, I guess, to take from this one with the unfortunate result at the end of it. But are there any thoughts that you had right before the game or whenever the lineups came out?
Yeah, so we'll go through the lineup. Guerrero left back, Hummels and Sule center backs, and then Meunier on the right. We had Oshan, Chan, and Bellingham in the middle. Royce, Modeste, and Reina up top. That's just off FootMob that I'm reading right now as a 4-3-3. But we saw that change. It was kind of like a 4-3-2-1. It was kind of a 4-5-1. It kind of shifted a little bit to our benefit. Like that was solid. Like it looked solid. I was a little skeptical not seeing Schlotterbeck in there and Hummels. I thought he did well though. I thought he played well. Sule, I just want to touch on Sule a little bit. Because one, I think you just watch him and you're like, he's obviously a big dude and he doesn't look that fast. And he looks like he might not be able to control the ball that well. That's just kind of how he looks when he's playing. And I think a lot of like Dortmund guys or fans are jumping on that, and they're already like seeing maybe a mistake here or there and jumping on him. And I've seen like a lot of hate thrown his way. But
have you really?
Yeah, on Twitter I've seen some stuff here and there. Maybe it's not super loud, but I've seen some stuff here and there.
That might be Twitter.
It's just Twitter. Twitter's a terrible place that I love and hate at the same time. But he's been getting a little bit, and I thought he played pretty well this game. There was also this random burst in I think it was like the 53rd minute where he just like flew through the center of the pitch, and was like running super fast and had like really good touches. It's just, I think it could be easy to just see him, like his body type and everything, and think there's not much there. But obviously he played for Bayern. The thing with this game I thought is good. Like, he's used to playing these big Champions League games and playing against big competition. So I like his experience for this game specifically was good. I thought he was fine. He got that header that denied Haaland. I think it was pretty early in the match. Anyways, enough ranting about him. I was still kind of confused to not see Schlotterbeck in there, seeing Chan in there, which I don't know your thoughts on him in the game specifically. I don't mind the setup because obviously we're going a little more defensive. But yeah, that was interesting to see in there too.
Yeah, so going back, it was Chan's first start to the competitive season, or in the competitive season, excuse me. And what an opportunity for him. Yeah. As well as you have 3 or maybe even 4 ex-Dortmund players starting for Man City in Haaland, Gundogan, Akanji. I thought for a second that Sergio Gomez was going to start, but that wasn't the case. So I just thought that was funny that there was 3 over there, and watching Akanji and Haaland play against us, I guess, so soon, considering they were, on our team just months ago.
Yeah. On their lineup real quick, I'm not going to go through their whole lineup, but they also have some injuries, especially at the back. So it was a good opportunity for us, having Ake and Akanji start as their center backs, who I doubt they've paired together, because this was only Akanji's second game. I don't remember if he played there. No, he didn't play on the weekend because they didn't have a game. So this was only his second game. So good opportunity for us to test that. And I was just really, really holding out for like an Akanji mistake to lead to a goal, because that's what he loved to do for us so much. But
I was actually thinking that too. Unfortunately that wasn't the case. But it was obviously a very different shape than what we're usually seeing, at least from Terzic and his tenure so far, and even back then whenever he was our interim coach. But I liked it. I mean, I thought, man, those first 45 minutes, City couldn't break us down whatsoever. I mean, for the majority of the game, City couldn't break us down whatsoever. And I mean, Chan's body language looked better. I mean, I would hope so. Again, with a massive opportunity that he had to prove himself. But I mean, Hummels, I thought, looked pretty decent. Sule, I thought, also looked pretty decent. Could have been a little bit more clinical with our chances on the counter, because we did have our opportunities. I mean, City can be left open like that at times. But it's heartbreaking that again, the result that we had. Again, I didn't see much of the second half, but after you get that first goal, you really just got to lock down and grind out that win. I mean, I said a few weeks back, this game away at City and probably also against them at home are going to be just smash and grabs. And really couldn't hold on. Yeah,
we did so well we just packed the middle and we forced them to. They had a lot of the possession, obviously, but we had some pretty good spells of possession too.
We did. It took a while. We had to grow into the game, but after 25 or so minutes, you're starting to see the most of the traffic flow was almost coming from Dortmund.
It was kind of very few and far between. It's like they would have a lot of the ball, and then we'd have like a short spell of possession. But it was good, and I like to see that we sat back, but then we did try to play. I wish in the first half we saw a little more in the second half, but I wish we would have pushed the counter more. I said that last week. Like I really wish we would have tried to push it upfield to get them on that transition. So I was a little frustrated seeing us like playing it slowly up the park and then trying to play through. But I felt like defensively we did great, and we just kind of forced them to have to go wide, but we were set so well that all their wide balls were coming from their center backs. Like they were long balls, and it gave us the time to switch over and get in another good position to just keep the pressure on them. I thought Guerrero did pretty great. He had a couple quite a few header interceptions, just coming from poor passes from them, but that's just the overall defensive pressure we put on them. So to get him in the right position. So I thought he looked decent.
I do want to say real quick that I honestly didn't think we were too slow as much as we were just pragmatic and safe with our passes, because you're going to get punished by City if you make even the slightest half step of a mistake. But we just played a little bit smarter on the ball, or at least a little bit safer on the ball than what we usually do, a little bit more cautious. But we were still able to get up the field and get in those, situations where it's 3-on-3 or something like that. And at those moments, you have the opportunity to actually go and net one here.
Yeah.
You have the quality in Royce and Reyna alone to actually make something of those chances.
Yeah. I don't think this was necessarily the lineup to counter. Like if we would have seen Adeyemi or Malen in there, because of course we don't have Haaland anymore, but we did see that quite a bit last year. I remember a few times where Malen got some goals on the counter, and obviously having really pacey Haaland up there. So I don't think this was the lineup to do it necessarily. And you're right, it was very pragmatic moving up the pitch. And then but from that, it's not like because we took our time and we were smart with it, we didn't give it away in the center of the park, and we were able to hold on to possession a little bit. We're not they still had way more possession in this game. We're not trying to say we had possession, but we had spells of good possession throughout the game.
Arguably even better too. City are able to play beautifully out of pressure and things like that, especially whenever people are trying to press them and pin them in their own half. But as for trying to break us down and everything like that, I think, and most people would probably even argue that if there was a goal that was going to come in those first 50 or so minutes, it probably was going to be from Dortmund, and that was the case. I think we had 34% possession, but we still looked dangerous. Again, those first 20 or 25 minutes, not so much. We were very much trying to grow into the game, get a feel for things. Meyer thankfully had a few easy ones to kind of get his confidence up early on too, and that could do a lot for a keeper, which I haven't talked about him yet, but he did a pretty solid job too of just picking out those crosses and keeping City quiet. But after 25 or so minutes in, we did eventually grow into that game, I think, relatively well. Yeah.
I went into this game, honestly, pretty terrified. I think as we got closer to this game, I was like, and off the Leipzig result, I was just like, this is going to be another horrendous game. And my wife walked in to the room when I was watching the game. She's like, how's it going? I was like, I feel like I'm watching a horror movie right now because at any minute, this is going to turn into my nightmare. But we were,
especially with how fragile we are mentally. One game one goal and this opens the floodlights and
guess
or floodgates.
If this is a horror movie, guess who the murderer is? It's your best friend who you thought was going to stay by your side forever. It's Erling Haaland. Yeah. But it didn't play out that the first half was, like I said, we both said, it was great. It was fantastic.
I would imagine it'd be kind of boring almost from a neutral standpoint, and of course incredibly frustrating if you're a Man City fan. But again, I didn't think we did bad. I really didn't. It's unfortunate that we couldn't actually get a result out of this. But again, we know better than pretty much anyone since having Haaland at Dortmund. But he is inevitable, and I think we kept him really quiet for 80 minutes of that game. I don't think he had really much of any chances before that. And I was saying before, I think we're going to be able to mark him pretty well because we know exactly the kind of runs he makes. And he's a striker or a jack of all trades when it comes to having so many different qualities as a terrific striker, but he is also incredibly intelligent in getting in those dangerous positions. And the vast majority of most strikers around Europe, having skill is one thing, but having the actual football knowledge to go and, have that kind of lethal instinct is a whole nother deal.
Yeah. And the key to that was just us stopping it at the source, stopping their chances. They didn't get any good balls into him. Maybe one, but that was the one that Sule cleared and got to it first, which is again, benefit of having his experience, against playing against Haaland and his size. Exactly. So, first half was great. Second half, also great. I like that.
I'm not going to say great to any of those.
Not great. Honestly. Not towards the end.
Yeah.
I
don't even think our first half was great either. I just think it was a lot better than I was expecting.
From what I thought it was going to be, I would say great. I thought it was fantastic.
But unfortunately, again, those last 10, 12 minutes or so, that's got to come down to Terzic again, of just him having not great game management skills. And it's not so much again, the substitutions in this game are a little questionable. Not the fact that Schlotterbeck came on, but just the the change in shape obviously really hurt us.
Yeah.
And that's got to come down to the coach. And he's got to learn in these things that you need to make smart decisions, especially as the game goes on and you're holding on to narrow leads like that. You need to make the right decisions.
Yeah. Hey, before you get too ahead with the subs, we got to talk about the goal.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, Bellingham's inevitable too, I guess.
We starting the second half, I like that we put a lot of we put a high press on, and we started really like just gegen pressing them and trying to win the ball high. And then we also countered quicker. Like that was one thing that stood out, was win the ball, push it upfield. And that's where I think that's where we led to the corner, which I'm just going to throw it out there. I'm so glad we have Reyna back to take some free kicks and put the corners in, because his looked a lot better than what we've seen from Brandt recently in his free kicks specifically.
It's interesting because, again, I didn't see too much of the second half besides the big highlights, but that sucks if true, because I know we were praising him a bunch a while back for him whipping in. I don't know how many corners or assists he got from corners in like a few weeks last season. So
yeah, but we did. So it was a corner that led to the goal, which was Reyna. He honestly just cleared it over everybody. Royce was sitting on the like the edge of the 18 kind of, and had so much time. He was completely open, had so much time, set it up. He kind of like settled the ball, and then he honestly like just took a shot. Who knows if it was shot or cross? It was definitely a shot. And Reyna got us, or not Reyna, Bellingham got his head on it.
That was a shot?
Do you think it was a shot? You thought he set him up for it?
I do think that was a cross. It wasn't a great cross, but I don't think that was a shot in the slightest. I think he was just trying to, because I mean, Royce, that's how he strikes the ball, is he hits it so the ball dips, no matter like how he's shooting at it, and no matter the angle, that's just how he hits the ball. So I think he's just trying to, again, it wasn't like great, but he got it into a pretty solid area. And it's funny enough, Haaland was actually marking
and a Kanji. He slid right in between both of them. It was fantastic.
It's crazy that Bellingham is just that much more alert than just, I mean, not just this game, but just in general. He's so goddamn mentally switched on every second of every game that he plays, that he's just able to get that edge on every other player. So yeah, kind of a double middle finger to those players. a little bit.
No, I thought it was, once I saw that, because I didn't catch it in real time, but once I saw the highlight, and it was, sitting right in between Haaland and Kanji, and they just kind of stood there. I loved it.
I love that Bellingham was able to read that and again actually go and take the initiative to put it in the net there. He was so alert.
Yeah, and I physically screamed. My dog started barking downstairs because she didn't know what was going on, but I was so happy. And then, yeah, I mean, they brought City immediately, like, subbed on some people.
Changes.
Yeah. Which I was kind of expecting, just because how we were able to hold them. And, I mean, their wide players, who was Mahrez and Grealish, couldn't do anything. Props to us for kind of holding them. So, of course, we knew, like, changes were going to happen. I was kind of scared of Foden coming in. He's pretty dangerous. And
yeah, Foden's scary.
And then... yeah, when did they score? I don't know. Fast forward to their goal and their first goal, which was Stones, center back. He was playing right back this game, but center back sometimes just kind of got the cross like wide open. I don't know what. I mean, we saw Schlotterbeck come in, and we switched to like a back 5/3. We had 3 center backs. Do you kind of touched on it, but how, like, your thoughts on that change? Do you think that kind of screwed us to like change up the formation so much, or?
Yeah, a little bit. And we just need to have more numbers back there. I mean, you mentioned it already, but Stones had so much time and space to settle, turn, and shoot, and like right on top of our box. I mean, someone has got to go close him down there. And I mean, who knew that Stones could have such like a banger like that? I mean, it had a lot of pace, had a lot of power. Of course, it was high too, and it dipped back down a little bit. But it wasn't too far away from Meyer, was it? It was. Not going to say it should have been a save, but I think it was savable. And I think Kobel could have. I think Kobel could have got to that.
It was a weird one because it did move quite a bit, and I mean, Yeah, it looked like it was pretty close. It looked like he kind of just brought his arm down and went like right over his arm. I don't understand. Granted, like the ball was moving, but he was in the area to block it. So it's unfortunate.
And I think Meyer just, again, for a goalkeeper, you just have to be that switched on all game, no matter what, because a shot can happen like that. And it can come from anywhere, really. And I think for a half second, he just wasn't really paying attention to exactly what was going on. And just by that time, it's just in the back of the net. I mean, he barely reacted whenever it was halfway to the goal.
And I mean, the crazy thing is, like, this dude's never played Champions League before. He's never played in the Bundesliga before. So props to him for
not a bad performance before that.
And I know 3 goals went in at the last game, but I don't think any of those were his fault. Maybe he could have done better with this shot from Stones, but again, I don't think too much was really his fault. Stones should not have been open like that. So it's kind of crazy to see. I feel like his distribution has been pretty decent. Just to see him step up to this level is pretty, I don't know. It's pretty cool for him. And I don't think he's really done too much wrong. So,
his distribution has been a surprise for me. I did not know he was going to be that talented for a goalkeeper of his age at that level on the ball, I'll say. Unfortunately, we didn't have Kobel though. I'm not going to say again it would have been saved, but like I think Kobel.
I think he could have read that Haaland goal.
Yeah, definitely, and also the Haaland goal as well. I think Kobel, at least if that would have happened 10 times, both of those shots, a good amount of times Kobel gets to those.
Yeah. And so, man, it was so disappointing seeing, again, maybe this is like kind of our change in formation, but really after that goal, it looked like we completely like switched off, or we just like lost our composure. Like everything we did well in the first half and leading up to that goal was just out the door. Like we were giving away sloppy balls. We were like losing the ball in possession. Like it was just, and granted, they stepped up the pressure and were really gunning for that win, but we, like I said, just lost our cool, lost our composure, and
bad game management, and
quickly led to that the next goal, which was the cross from Cancelo into Haaland, which is just the classic Haaland being Haaland. He can't reach it with his head, so he throws his foot up there and it goes in.
No, I have a friend who is a Man City supporter, and he texted me after that goal, and he was just saying, it's like just saying how high he jumps, and I'm like, that's like exactly the kind of striker he is, though. At the same time, I mean, he is always so dead. I mean, he's not the most like accurate person with his head, but he's so dangerous in the air either way. I mean, he could just use every part of his body to get those goals. I mean, again, you mentioned it already, but he did almost the exact same thing against Wolfsburg last year.
It was like identical or is mirrored. It was from the other direction. That one, he was a little more open. This one, he was still in between 2 defenders and like super high in the air.
Over Schlotterbeck.
Oh, it was
nuts. Unbelievable.
I know. Okay, we can't just like hype Haaland all the time, but the announcers, I still like him so much. The announcers were just like losing their minds, which I thought was so funny. And granted, okay, if you're not watching Haaland week in, week out, you don't know, or you can't really expect what he's going to do. But I was just like, that's just classic Haaland. That's just what he does.
Yeah. Like, and it had to be him, didn't it? It had to be him. I mean, just to put a pin on those 2 games, it sucks to take 2 L's in a row. But you're back home this weekend, and it's the Riviera Derby, and you again have an opportunity to turn things back around. I mean, this could be a very huge win and a very winnable game as well.
All right, before we really get into the preview for upcoming game this weekend, I mean, we kind of started this podcast as me as a newer Dortmund fan, which I was just thinking about this watching the Man City game. Dortmund used to be like my casual team to watch. Like I'd like, oh yeah, I'll watch. I like this team. I'll watch them. And then like we started doing this podcast, and now they got me so stressed and so sad, and they just ruined my week, which is fantastic. I got other casual teams to watch. It's okay. But now I'm just like so stressed by them. But as a newer fan, and we've always wanted this podcast to be a very like, for any other new fans, because with the Bundesliga, I mean, Bundesliga doesn't get as much coverage in America, obviously, but you can still catch all the games. But it's hard to kind of follow the league a little bit, follow the team specifically, because you don't always get the pre-game and post-game and everything. And so we always wanted this podcast to be very like approachable, especially if you're a newer fan. We wanted it to be like a welcoming environment and a place where you feel like you have people to watch the game with. And it doesn't matter if you haven't been a fan for a long time, because I haven't. I'm still fairly new to this team. Carver's liked him for a long time. He's the expert. That's why I let him talk a lot.
I'm not the expert. I'm just a longtime fan is all.
But with that said,
not even close.
For any newer fans, and I know we have a few because we've had some who've reached out who are kind of getting into Dortmund. And I love hearing those stories because I don't want anyone to feel like this is too far over your head. I learn a lot of things. That's why I throw a lot of questions at Carver too. But Carver, can you just explain the game this weekend, like what it means? And you don't have to, as little or as much as you want. I just like explain this game, this derby this weekend.
Yeah, so I could tell you this much as a Dortmund fan, maybe in reference to the table and the title race, it's not quite there. But as for an actual derby, this is the actual derby as opposed to like the quote unquote Der Klassiker. I almost said El Clasico, but the Der Klassiker that's like been marketed towards ESPN for the last few years. But like this is the actual derby of two local rivals, Dortmund and Schalke. I mean, a lot of history that anyone I would encourage to go and read more about online. But I mean, Schalke is less than it's like less than 20 miles from Dortmund, if I'm not wrong. And there's been heated exchanges in the past, and this is a game that's always very intense. So it's an exciting one for the neutral fans. It's a stressful one for the Dortmund and Schalke fans. It's a good time. And to kind of piggyback on, I guess, this little mini segment that we're doing here, I wanted to, I guess, also mention that the fan club for St. Louis is going to be having a watch party at the Amsterdam Tavern this weekend. And it's not just their typical watch party either. They're also having some footage for Sky Sports that's going to be sent there. Dortmund, I guess, handpicked the fan club to kind of do this coverage. And I encourage any other Dortmund fan around the area, it doesn't have to be in St. Louis, it could be around the area of Missouri, to go and experience that with the fan club. Nathan, the guy who runs the fan club, he's got a big colored mustache that you'll see. He's incredibly nice. He's incredibly welcoming. Everyone in the fan club is incredibly nice and incredibly welcoming. So I highly encourage people to go and meet some newer fans, meet some older fans, just connect with everyone and have a great time. And you get free stuff too. Nathan is always giving away gear. So,
are you going this weekend?
It's funny that I just hyped all that up, but I genuinely want to go. But I have a class for coaching this weekend that is all day Saturday.
It's okay.
So I'll be watching the game later that night, but I will be at the Dam in the next few weeks for the Bayern game.
Okay. I mean, you're spreading the good word, so it's okay if you can't make it. I am going to try to go. I don't know if I'm 100% yet, but I am going to try to make it. And then so Carver and I, we live in St. Louis. That's why we're hyping up Amsterdam Tavern with our local St. Louis fan club. But I know, shout out to everyone from New York who listens, who are part of the Brooklyn Brewsin, and we got
but that was fun last week. I mean, not the loss, but the experience of having Patrick Owomalayela there, and
cool watch party experience. Shout out to the DC supporters group too, who I know I forget the bar they go to, but we've been seeing a lot more of that recently. Obviously, these
Kansas
supporter
City
groups
as well.
Yeah, they've been around a long time, but those are ones that we've connected with specifically. So if to any of those supporters groups or anyone who you're going to watch with some people or whatever, or do any kind of watch party anywhere, make sure you tag us or let us know. Hopefully we'll see it because we want to retweet those and get the word out about those too. Just go watch, especially if you're a new fan, find the club. This is a good game to go meet some people, learn more about the club, and really get embedded in the club. If you're a newer fan, this is a game to go watch with some people if you can. So highly encourage you to go check it out. And kickoff is 9:30 Eastern time. We are home, so that's
that's a big boost, of course.
I have no idea what word I was about to say. I was about to say that's a park. That didn't make any sense. That's the word that was, I don't know. I'm going to shut up. Carver, you can talk about the game.
I mean, I already kind of previewed it, I guess, enough, but I think there was already a genuine reaction. It was 90 minutes late from Leipzig, but there was a reaction against Man City. And I think there could be an even better reaction now that the team has some positives to build off of. It's such a difficult game at Manchester. So And of course, Schalke, I mean, spending the last year in the second division, they're not going to have as much talent, but they still have had some, pretty decent signings here and there this summer. But however, Schalke did come out last week and beat another local rival of us, Bochum, and they sit 12th in the table. So they got a few draws and only one win so far. But let's keep them at bay and give them another loss, because I really don't want to lose 3 in a row, especially to our rival now, like our actual rival.
Yeah, I am feeling a lot more confident after that Man City game. Obviously, we lost, and that's not great. And to lose and to let them come back is not great. I really hope the guys aren't too down on that, because I think we did have a decent performance. Unfortunate how it ended, but I just hope they take confidence in that, knowing it's like, hey, we can still go toe-to-toe against one of the best teams in the world. We are a good team. We just need to get our shit together. So I hope they're not too. We don't need their confidence dropping anymore after that Leipzig game, which is horrendous. We just need them to come out.
Believe it or not, can happen.
Yeah. I just really hope, the matter of this defeat, I know it could hurt your confidence, but I hope they walk away feeling a lot better about that game, because I'm feeling a lot better than I was after the Leipzig game. And maybe that's because this is always kind of a little bit of a therapy session. Maybe it's because we're talking through it right after I watched, opposed to sitting and wallowing after a couple days. But no, I do feel a lot better after that Man City game. So hopefully we can just move forward. Terzic can, kick him into gear, and we can start piecing things together.
Mm-hmm. No, I think we are going to look more confident. I mean, Jude tweeted right after the game saying he was just proud of every single one of his teammates for putting in the fight and putting in the effort, everyone doing their part. So again, I think the mood overall is not great. Of course, it's 2 L's in a row, but again, I think they're also just really focused on this next game and just getting a win, getting it out of the way, and just moving on. And I think that's what's probably going to happen. I'm hoping Terzic is learning every game and learning to make better decisions with his reactions whenever we're losing. And I'm hoping that's going to be the case here this weekend. And I'm going to go with a 3-1 win for us.
I like that prediction, and I will also go 3-1. We don't always go lineup predictions, though, but now that we kind of have some guys back, do you have any lineup predictions? Do you think we'll see Adeyemi or Malen slot in? What do you think we'll see up top specifically?
I think we're probably going to rock arguably the same lineup that we did against Leipzig. It's just going to be a better shape, hopefully going to be a bit more compact. We're going to have better coaching overall in the open play. And maybe I would imagine we'll probably get to see more of Malen and Adeyemi off the bench earlier in the second half.
Do you think Reina starts?
I do.
Because Leipzig was Wolf and Brandt.
That's true. Oh, I guess it was also Meunier and Wolf on the right. So maybe depending on which right back Terzic wants to go with, it'll be a similar lineup, and having Brandt and either Malen or Adeyemi. Or not Malen, or Adeyemi, Malen or Reina.
And then hot take. Well, this isn't my hot take. I'm asking you to make a hot take. Modeste, do we keep starting Modeste, or do we give Moukoko a chance?
That's a good question, because I think Moukoko, this could be a game for Moukoko to do well. Schalke can be a team, I guess, you can't exploit with pace, but I'm also imagining, just a tough game that you're going to have to go and actually grind out a first goal, and then you could start getting the attacks flowing. So I feel like it can go either way. I probably go with Modeste, and if he's not performing well 50, 60 minutes in, I'd make some changes.
A little sooner then, yeah. Which, we have seen changes at around the 60-minute mark usually, but maybe he's kind of stayed on. I think he's usually played a little bit longer.
He's also played a lot.
Yeah. All right, well, you got anything else? We're wrapping it up?
That's it, yeah.
Went a little longer than I thought we would. But hey, thank you so much for listening and venting with us a little bit. It's always good to vent with people, which is why we do this podcast, because we need to vent a lot nowadays. Well, now all the days. We did a lot last season. We're doing a lot this season now. You can find us on Twitter and Instagram. We're always posting there, especially info about the upcoming games, the watch parties and everything, at the BVB Pod. If you want to email us, if social media is not your thing, that's great. The BVB Pod thebvbpodcast@gmail.com. And then we have a website too that has the links to everything. And you can find episodes there. Of course, we're on Spotify, Apple, all those places if you search the BVB podcast, or just go to thebvbpodcast.com. That's a lot of BVBs. I think I got it all out of the way. So that's it for this week. My name's Jake. Carver has been with me as always. We will see you later.
See ya.